Hey everyone, it's me, Donna. I'm using this avatar because I don't look my best today. I'm still in my pajamas, but I feel like talking, so yeah. Okay. Um, I have been hit with a whole lot of new ideas here lately, even since I made my last video about my idea for a brand new hospital in Russellville, Alabama. I've come up with some new ideas since then. And one of those ideas, of course, I forgot to mention it in my last video, is that definitely this hospital is going to need like board rooms, meeting rooms, things like that for the doctors in particularly. You know, when they're building the different floors and everything, definitely little bitty meeting rooms along with, the offices, because I mentioned about the offices. But, naturally they're going to need some meeting rooms in there to where like a team of doctors can get together and discuss what they need to do about their patient and whatever. So that definitely needs to be put within the hospital, at least on, maybe 2 of the floors. So that can be there for them to use. And what was it I was saying? Or I was thinking about? Oh, also I think a chaplain service needs to be offered at this new hospital. There needs to be like a little mini chaplain area. Excuse me. A little small area to where people can go and like if they're, thinking about their loved one, worried or whatever, or they just want to reconnect with God or, whatever it is that they believe, it would be nice if there was like a little room with chairs and things like that for people to go and sit and, do their praying or whatever it is that they feel they need to do. And also, it would be nice if there was a chaplain at the hospital to be there for them to talk to. I think that, that's something that unfortunately some hospitals have taken out of their services. And I think that a chaplain is needed. I think that they are very important people. A lot of people rely on them. And I think that, they are definitely needed. So, I would love for that to be, offered at the new hospital. And, they can have their own office or whatever. So, yeah. Okay, also on the hospital grounds, and I think I will make another video and like draw diagrams or whatever. Also, because the parking lot is going to be pretty big in my vision, considering that area of land that I have in mind, it's going to be a big parking lot, but it would be nice if there can be like a small cancer center put in the parking lot of the hospital. I think, to me, that should have been almost like a no-brainer due to the fact of so many people in this area coming down with cancer. There's like a huge rate, which it's all over the United States. It's not just here. It's everywhere. And a lot of people have to go from around here, have to go to the Shoals area when they get a cancer diagnosis in order to seek treatment. I want to see that change. I want Russellville to actually have a cancer center that's linked up with the hospital, or it can be its own separate thing, but I think it needs to be on the hospital premises. And, they can offer cancer treatment to cancer patients. And I want to see more than just chemotherapy offered here, because there's so much being done in the field of cancer research, and they're finding that biotherapy and things of that nature are very promising. I want to see more and more people be given a choice of like immunotherapy, different things like that are so much better for the body. It doesn't destroy all the cells like chemo, and then of course radiation, it destroys skin tissue and all that. And it can even up your chances of getting cancer in the future and all that. I want to see people have a choice. I'm not knocking people's choices for chemotherapy and radiation. I just think that people need to have more options as far as that goes. I think they need to be given other treatment if they so desire it. So, yeah. Okay, another idea that I have is for an education building to be built on the property right next to the hospital. It provides educational services, as well as it will have real pretty boardrooms, more than one, so that when management wants to, I guess what you say, woo new doctors to come into this area, because that's something that we definitely need. Instead of patients having to go all the way to Birmingham, all the way to Huntsville, all the way to the Shows area or whatever, why not bring these doctors here, these needed doctors? Bring them here. Let them be a part of our community. Put their education to work. All those years that they spent in college and the money that they've spent on their education, all that, let them have a job here. But, naturally we need to make room for these doctors. We need to, give them offices, give them, the patients, and just make room for them within the new hospital and all that. So Russellville needs to be more inviting to these new doctors with this new technology and all that, okay? But anyway, back to this education / board room meeting building. Okay, on one side, there's the area for the educational services. I know everything's gone to the computers these days, but still, I think that there is a need for hands-on training when it comes to certain things. I know in the old days when I worked at what is the current hospital right now, I used to, a few days out of the year, the employees had to go to the educational department to be trained on what they need to know about HIPAA, about lifting certain weights, about the proper postures that you have to take when you're lifting things, about slipping and falling, and all those hazards. We'll just say hazards. All those different things that you need to know as an employee at the hospital. It used to be hands-on. We had speakers. We had to sign papers and all that stuff, and actually communicate to learn these things. Well, now everything's gone to the computers. And although, yeah, it's convenient and all that, but it kind of takes a little bit away from the education, I think. But regardless, whether a hospital chooses to do their training in person, hands-on, or if they choose to do it with the computers, I think having a computer room is very vital for this. And have it in a building that is very close to the hospital, right in the parking lot, to where the employees can just go right to the building to do what they need to do. Instead of employees having to share one computer within their department to do their training on, and having to take, you can imagine 15, 20 people trying to take turns on one computer, especially like in dietary or housekeeping or something like that. Everybody's having to take turns on one computer that may or may not be working right to do their yearly training. That's kind of aggravating. Well, I think what they need is a room dedicated to not only for new people coming in, like new employees that are being hired. I mean, you have to go through all this when you're when you're newly hired into hospital staff or whatever. You have to go through your orientation and your training and whatever, and a lot of that's done on computers nowadays. Although, you know, usually there's someone there to help or whatever. But have those computers to be used for the employees that are currently employed by the hospital who need re-education every year. Have those computers there for them to go and use. Have like a nice big room full of computers to where they can go into this room and do what they need to do, and you know, instead of having to just share one computer in a department. I mean, I just think that, you know, I just think that it's better. Although, you know, the computer in the department can be available for employees that happen to have a little extra time and they're just right there, then that's fine. But for the rest of them, it would just be nice to be able to go to this room and use those computers there. Okay? So that would be nice. Okay? Also, the other part of this building, there can be, you know, naturally a big meeting room for when the CEOs or management or whatever need to have big meetings with the employees of the hospital. They have plenty of space for that. A nice big space, nice big room for them to have their meetings. Instead of, you know, all the employees having to gather up in the lunchroom like at the old hospital. You know, that's pretty much what a lot of them end up doing, is having meetings in there. And, you know, that's a whole bunch of people crammed into a lunchroom. That's not too good, you know. I just think it'd be better if there was a room set up just for that. And there used to be, like I said, you know, in the past, there used to be on the premises of the hospital, you know, there used to be an educational department. Then it got moved onto another street, and it was in, you know, a nice, pretty good sized building. There was room for the educational area and all that. But it would be nice if a brand new building was built on the property of this new hospital that belongs to the hospital. There's no changing it up. It's there. It comes along with the property of the hospital, and it's there for the employees and, you know, whatever the management need to use it for. But that's where the big meetings can be held, as well as other areas like one or two board rooms that are pretty good size for management to woo the doctors in here, to come in here to be a part of our community and whatever, and they can order carry out, whatever it is they want to do. They can take care of that in one of the board rooms, and then have another one to where the nurses, and maybe even a few more meeting rooms to where nurses and other staff, doctors, whatever, they can have a place to do their yearly meetings. Or actually, with nurses and doctors, you know, they have to meet all the time. And especially the nurses. They're constantly having to review their charts, their patients, all that type of stuff. And especially when they get new nurses coming in, it's just a constant need for them to have meetings. Well, currently, or at least the last that I'm aware of, a lot of times the nurses were having to go into the lunchroom at the current hospital and do their meetings. And I think that's not a good idea, because that puts them right there in the public. And anyone needing to come into the lunchroom have to be quiet, have to be careful, you know, because the nurses are having their meeting. And plus, in my opinion, even though I know they don't mean to, but there could be a chance that things could be said that might violate HIPAA. And that's not good. I think it would be best to have a private room to where the nurses can go meet and they can talk about what they need to talk about when it comes to patients, their charts, whatever. And it's all private, and nobody's having to be disturbed, and there's no chance for eavesdroppers listening in on the conversation. I just think that's where that type of meeting needs to be held. It doesn't need to be held in a lunchroom. It doesn't need to be held in any kind of public place. It needs to be taken care of in a private room with plenty of space for the nurses to go to do what they need to do. Okay? And, you know, like I said, I'm not saying this to be, you know, negative or bad or anything like that towards current operations at, you know, the current hospital or whatever. But, you know, I just think that if we had the new hospital built and all that, things need to be managed differently. There needs to be a whole different way of doing things in order to carry on business, so to speak, okay? So that's, let me think. That's all I can think of right now as far as the hospital, but it's stuff that I, you know, didn't think to mention in my previous video in regards to the hospital, but, you know, I wanted to take this opportunity to say it. And also, you know, in another video, I want to do, you know, a little bit of diagramming to, you know, explain better about what I'm talking about as far as that goes. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.